It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Wednesday, October 25th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is so bummed out about that loss last night, Russ. So close.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's what separates the really good teams and the teams that are playing okay.
Yeah, we will get into that game, plus your mailbag questions all on today's show.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. As a show, we're on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Locked On Flyers as well. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. You can subscribe or follow us for free over on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, you'll get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Oof, Russ, like so close to stealing a point in Vegas, so close. About 30 seconds left to give up that goal. And I think that really you look at this game and there are a lot of similarities to losses from last season where, they play a solid 40 minutes. And this is coming straight from John Tortorella's mouth post game too. They play a real solid 40 minutes, do a lot of really good things, and then they just play on their heels for the last 20 minutes and suffer the consequences.
Yeah, so a few things. I think as far as the 40 minutes thing, John's got to take some culpability here. Playing the way he wants these guys to play wears them down. And I saw some guys pretty worn down late in that third period. And that's because they are giving 1,000% effort. And when you do that for an entire game, sometimes you're going to have a lull. And you don't know when it's going to come. There's no lack of effort, but there's also, you have to understand, you got to play to the strength of the guys that are actually on the ice, even though you may have a system that says otherwise. One thing that I didn't get to last show was when this roster was constructed, clearly, John Tortorella was like, we got to get better on the penalty kill. But that's all you did. You only added penalty killers. You didn't add anybody to help the power play. Nobody.
Yeah, I think, you can sort of look at it in one of two ways, or I guess both at the same time here, because you can look at the Flyers and say, yes, they got tired. To your point, Sanheim played over 25 minutes. Walker played almost 25 minutes.
He ever played 24 minutes. Think about
it. I know.
I'm not saying he played bad. I mean, he played a good game, but come on.
Yeah. So you look at that and you look at the scenario, like you said, that they got worn out and Tortorella has to be culpable for that. And that makes total sense. The other thing that also makes total sense is that Vegas is an excellent team with a lot of depth, and they have an extra gear that they can kick it into in the third period. And they just overwhelmed the Flyers, who are a weaker team overall. And so I think that, while there's definitely I am heartbroken over this loss, because I really thought for a minute there that maybe the Flyers could be that team to give Vegas their first loss this season. But I also know they are a better team and they have the experience to kick it into that extra gear. And at a certain point, they were going to do that. And they did, and the results showed.
Three guys, I'm going to pat myself on the back. Three guys I wanted to make sure that we covered when we previewed this game was Jay Theodore, Paul Cotter, and Ivan Barbashev. And they were all factors in this game. But it does show how deep they are. Now, conversely, Paul Cotter plays on the third line the same way Owen Tippett did. And Owen Tippett isn't scoring. I looked into Owen Tippett, and he's still missing the net a lot, right? But now last year he had 400-something shots. As we talked about, he's not getting that many shots this year on the third line. So now he's missing the net at the same rate, and he's going to get half to maybe a little more than half of the shots that he had last year. It's going to be a battle for him to score it this way. And this is where I think John Tortorella has set him up to fail a little bit. Because if you have him on a third line, then you have to understand he can't be as impactful as last year. He's just not going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I just also think that if you look at the shot quality, and that's something we talked about in our preview, is that
Yeah,
they had to get shot distribution from different points in the ice, and they had to get better shot quality because they were only going to get one chance,
right.
maybe two if they were lucky per rush. That's exactly how it played out. They did
True.
not have the shot quality. They did not have the shot distribution. If you look at the heat map, there's a ton of shots from one or two particular areas and
Right.
not a lot from the high danger areas. And Vegas did a
If
much
you're
better
coming down
job.
the ice and I'm looking at the goalie, that upper right area, they got a lot of shots from there. I didn't
Lot
even
of
look at the
shots.
heat map, but I just know.
Yeah, yeah, it's basically from that one side close to the dot where
Yep.
the majority of the shots that the Flyers got, and that makes it, while Thompson made some incredible saves in this game, and he was a huge factor,
He
no
was.
doubt, but I think that, it made his job a little easier because there
No
was
doubt.
some
I mean, they do video
predictability.
work on that.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think having Thompson in net versus Hill, maybe was a factor there because there was some unexpected uh play to that effect.
Although
But
I can play that game too. If you didn't have Carter Hart in net, how
yeah.
many goals were going to be in?
Oh, well, yeah, that's a whole other ball of wax here in terms of
Right.
how great Carter Hart was in this game. Have to give him all of the kudos in the world. There was no way he was stopping that Cotter goal. Not a chance, especially, after Zamula kind of got worked on that one. But I think that this was a stellar game overall for Carter Hart.
Yeah, no doubt. It was the best game I've seen him play this year and maybe even last year because of the quality of the opponent and everything else. You had to tip your cap to Vegas. The fact that they won this many games after being the Stanley Cup champ the next season, it's unbelievable. Like I've never seen a team do this. So yeah, they're a tough opponent. You played them hard, but are they going to learn from their mistakes? Is John
Yeah,
Tortorella going to say, "Hey, I still can't put Morgan Frost in because we almost won"? Like, is he going to continue to sort of play that game? That's the other thing because you can't convince me Morgan Frost wouldn't help this team in some of these circumstances. But the longer he stays out, the harder it's going to be for him to just come in and be effective too.
yeah. Well, we're going to talk about that more on tomorrow's show as part of our preview against the Wild, just because we're going to get into some adjustment talk a little bit. But I do want to talk about the kids in this game
Mhm.
because this was a prime example. Again, when I say like Vegas has the depth and they can kick it into another gear, this is where the Flyers, younger guys, have a lot to learn. And that's
Mhm.
okay to some degree. I think that, you look at how many minutes Cam York got in this game. You look at Zamula, was the one who made the mistake to allow the Cotter goal. Andre, I think, made some defensive errors in this game. I think, Tyson Foerster and Bobby Brink saw how hard it was against a team like Vegas
Oh
to
yeah,
get second chances. They all just really only got one chance and then we're going back the other way. And that's a lot of extra skating, a lot of extra exertion. So I think, if you look, zoom out a little bit, this was a really good learning experience for those guys.
yeah, no doubt. I mean, they are going to make some mistakes, but veterans made mistakes too. Towards the end of the game, Travis Sanheim had his back to the play. Why? There were two Flyers defensemen deep, and both of the Vegas guys were in the crease ahead of them, so they couldn't win the crease battle. And you got Shea Theodore shooting. So I mean, a lot of people made mistakes. When the kids do it, I think it's just easy to point out. Oh, look, it was Zamula. Oh, look, it was. There were a lot of mistakes. There were a lot
Yep.
of mistakes to go around, and if you're going to give the team credit for playing this game close, then you have to give the young players credit because they played a part in it too.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that there's a lot of good to come out of this game. There's a lot of lessons to come out of this game. And hopefully the lessons will be taken to improve moving forward. And again, we're going to talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. In the meantime, the NHL did their big frenzy with all 32 teams playing. We're going to get into that, plus your mailbag questions coming up next.
Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from supercharger roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your parts guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need, prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers.
On tomorrow's show, we will be previewing our matchup against the Minnesota Wild, who are a real fascinating team
They are.
this season. So looking forward to that game as well. So Russ, we survived the 11:17 p.m. puck drop, which
We did.
was
I know they pushed it back.
just
I was like, come on.
really, I know. But obviously we both watched this on TV, and I did watch the NHL Frozen Frenzy. I had their sort of red zone feed on for most of the night, and I have to say it was a lot of fun.
It is fun. Me having like a scouting mind, I can't just watch all the good stuff like that because there's no context, right? I don't know what sets it
Right.
up. So for me, it's kind of like, yeah, I could watch it for a little while, but I can't stay on that all night. I still had to go into the games and get the feel of the games, especially if I'm going to talk about them. But I imagine a lot of people enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think I did watch like more like longer sections of the Caps Leafs game because it was the first one on. And I did watch a little bit more of the Kraken game as well. But yeah, I think overall it's a good idea. I just really think they should do it on the weekend where they can start earlier and not have an 11:17 Eastern puck drop for us.
Yeah, the only ththing is the only time of the year they could do it on the weekend is when there's no NFL or college football season. Otherwise, you
Right.
can't do it on because right away you say weekend, Saturday's college football. That whole station is run on college football, and then Sunday is the NFL. So you have to wait till those are over. So it'd have to be sometime in February.
Yeah, that is probably a good point. All right, we will get to your mailbag questions. Diving into our mailbag this week, we had our Phantoms Tuesday yesterday. Go back and listen. A lot of good stuff coming out of Lehigh Valley right now. Jeremy wants to know, do the Flyers make a call up after this road trip? And if so, who's the first defenseman you'd call up from the Phantoms?
For me, it would be Ronnie Adder. But the problem is to even get one to be called up, you have to do something with Sandstrom unless they're sending Emil Andre down. But if Risto comes back, then Emil Andre has to go down. And then if Sandstrom's still there, you can't call up anybody. But in a make-believe world, I'll pick Ronnie Adder.
Yeah, I think it's between him and Jennings. And I think it depends on what role they want to fill, right? So if you're looking at Mark Stahl being out and they want more of a defensive defenseman, I who can occasionally contribute in an offensive rush, Jennings might be that guy for them. And he's playing very well. So strategically, I could see either one of them
Sure. You
being
can make a
being
good
that call up. But I think to your point, there's a lot of other moving pieces and parts here that affect whether or not they can make a call up. But I do think if there is a call up, it's going to be on the blue line side of things. The forward situation is too crowded as we know, which leads us into our next question. Evan wants to know, how do you feel about Morgan Frost being a healthy scratch? Is this the right message for him to maybe start being more consistent, or is this something that could cause issues down the road? Love his skills, but also want to see more from him this year.
Well, yeah, you can't see more if he doesn't get in and have a chance to atone. 4 games is already too much. Like, it's too much. It's too much for anybody. Again, he is not a fully developed player either. He's closer than some of the other players, but he's not fully developed. So the reward system, or the way that John's doing it, I have a problem with. And I have a problem with, how he's going about it. But there's not much anybody can do about it. So what if they win a game against Las Vegas? Or what if they lose in overtime? Does that mean he's out again? Even if other players aren't performing? These are the questions that fans are asking, and I'm getting asked it a lot.
Yeah, we should add this is being recorded before the game against Vegas, so we
Correct.
don't know exactly what happened there as we're talking about this right now. But that being said, I think your point stands that Morgan Frost is a guy that thrives when he's out there consistently, and he gets better and better as he continues. We saw that last season for sure. And I think to really throw out what Morgan Frost did last season to some degree is a huge mistake. It's a mistake for his development, and it's a mistake for the Flyers, I think, as well, to not be able to take advantage of his skills and to put Lawton in as center. I don't think is ultimately what they should be doing. They should have true centers
Right.
at center moving forward. I'm not saying Scott Lawton can't do it.
No.
He can, but it's not ideal. I think Lawton
It's not his
thrives
choice.
more.
It's not his number one choice.
Yeah, Lawton absolutely thrives more when he's on the wing. He can
And his
be more
offense is
creative.
already suffering just the little time he's playing center.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, bringing this back to Morgan Frost, we got to just get him in some games. And if you're not going to do that, I mean, I know there's like Frost for Shane Pinto rumors out there, but I do really, just for the sake of Morgan Frost, honestly, who I think deserves the respect. John Tortorella wants respect. Well, Morgan Frost deserves some respect here too, and he deserves the playing time. So like there's gonna be like, this has got to come to a head soon. Like, you either got to put him on the market and figure out if there's a good deal for him to allow him to actually play and maybe get something in return for it, an asset in return, or you got to put him in. These are your two options here.
I agree.
Our next question from Steven is, keeping Emil Andre up with the Flyers the right thing for him developmentally?
I mean, it's not necessarily the wrong thing. Again, if he's holding his own, which I think right now he's holding his own, he may not be thriving. That's not the wrong thing. It doesn't mean in 5 more games they say, okay, this is what you have to work on, and they send him down and somebody else comes back up. So I don't think it's the wrong thing.
Yeah, I think that it just depends on how he's being used, and it depends on who he's partnered with. I think he does need to be sheltered a little bit.
Mhm.
He's been, a little bit of the backdoor problem. He's missing some coverage there, but I do think what he can do offensively and his smarts in terms of getting the Flyers on a good version of the rush has been pretty good. And so I think, the Flyers just have to make sure they're taking advantage of his skills specifically. I would keep, the defensive zone faceoffs to a minimum for him in terms of whatever pairing he's in. And I think he'll be okay staying up with the Flyers if that's what they decide to do. We talked about, potential call up. I think, Russ, you were right in the fact that if they're going to call somebody else up, Andre probably has to go down to make it work. And I don't think that's a bad thing for him either. I think he could build up some of those defensive skills that maybe he's a little lacking on at the AHL level equally as much. So I think we're in a good position with him either way, and look forward to seeing what he can do, because I love watching him play, especially when he gets going. All right, we've got more of your mailbag questions, and we will get to them coming up next. Buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. My favorite part of the Game Time app is that it's great for getting notified about last-minute tickets and flash deals. Plus, you can get that all-important view from your seats. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Also, the tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email to find them. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem with the code LOCKEDONNHL. That's all one word for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Okay, so continuing with our mailbag questions here. There's no good way to pronounce this, but Zioth on YouTube made a comment saying, I absolutely have no problem with Sealers stepping into fight after the hit on TK in the last game. This is how a team should be. I don't care if it costs us the game. It shows they care and have some heart, especially because TK is arguably our best player. So the question that comes out of this is, when is a fight good, and how do you know that it has an impact on the game?
Well, I think if you win the game, it's had an impact. They didn't win the game. I think if you didn't put your team in a bad position for a long period of time, it's good. It's hard to say any fight where it's a positive unless you get somebody off the ice that's better than you, and that's another situation. But I'm still going to argue against this because, again, there's only 6 defensemen, and now you're down 5 defensemen for the amount of the fight time there, and I don't think that's good. I get it. You want to stick up for your teammate. You could stick up for your teammate by checking that guy. Why do you have to fight that guy? You could hit him.
Yeah, that's really how I feel about it too, is that, you have some words with them, and then the next opportunity you throw a hit, a legal hit at him, and then nobody goes off the ice in the situation. I do think the exception is if it's a very good player that you want to get off the ice. I think
That's fair.
that point is very fair, but I do think in this particular situation, this didn't accomplish that, and I don't think that necessarily that fight led to those shorthanded goals. I really don't. I think that's naturally there in the Flyers penalty kill system,
I do
and they're
too.
going to be aggressive and go for that regardless if they feel like juiced up from a fight that
Yeah.
just happened. Because we've seen that consistently this whole season so far. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at, is that I want the fewest fights possible and used only very strategically, really, truly when it warranted
Yeah, I
it.
feel the same way.
And I don't think this was the case in that situation. Kim wants to know, how do you feel about the potential changes to the NHL draft? Just if you're not aware, there's been a proposal floated around that the NHL would kind of use the NBA style draft, where there's like a 5,000 to 10,000 seat venue, and you only have 1 or 2 reps from each team there, and you have the same kind of promo pictures, and they get to go up and do all of that. But all of the kind of big post-draft media would be done in the draft city. And so it looks a lot different than what it would now with, the big tables and all of that.
I'll say that I would prefer to keep the draft the way it is, but that's not to say you can't improve it. But my issue is, and this has been, echoed by some GMs, many of them, that, when you go face to face, it's surprising what kind of deals could be set up either for the draft or down the road, because you're actually talking face to face. You're not like, texting. For the viewers, I know a lot of viewers like it when they see their team talking to another team at the table. You don't get to see that when people are texting at their offices in the bunkers. You're not going to have any idea. There's no context there. So I do feel like they do want that information to kind of glean that and see some of that happening. For the players, I do think the players should be handed the sweaters from the organization. I think it means more. That's just me.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's a lot of drama to it. I love that in-person interaction with the potential trades that can happen at the draft. I love having like that extra representative from the team
Yep.
that hands them the jersey and the kids walking around,
Yep.
that are like connected to the team somehow. I just love all of that. And I like having a larger percent of the fan base there in the big arena. I think that, if Gary Bettman likes to be booed, why not be booed by more people, Gary?
Right.
Let's keep it that way. I think that's I just kind of like it the way it is, and I'm sure there are refinements, like you said, but I
Yeah.
like it in the big arenas, and I like it with everybody there. So, and a chance to really for more fans to just run into their new draftees in the concourse and all of that. That
That's a
part of it
big
is
deal.
fun.
People don't realize how big a deal that is.
Yeah, I know I've had that experience in the past, and it's a lot of fun.
Because now the last thing on this is now there's a chance there's going to be fewer prospects there too.
Yep, absolutely. So I like it when more prospects are there to be picked as well. Mario wants to know, does the NHL or NHLPA still have in the collective bargaining agreement a clause that states a rookie player must be returned to his junior team if he doesn't play a certain number of games at the beginning of the season? If so, what's the number of games?
Well, the first level of games is 9. You go over 9, and then that gets them closer. That burns the first year of the ELC when you go to 9. Then
Right.
the next one is 40, and if you hit the 40 mark, then that gets them 1 year closer to UFA, to be in the UFA. So most teams don't go over the 40. Like Anaheim's being very careful now with Leo Carlson. They're going to give him, like they gave Zegers 25. They'll probably give Carlson somewhere between 25 and 30. But then that's it. That's why Pat Verbeek was like coy about it. It was like, well, we'll give him a lot in the second half. Yeah, okay. We know why. So it's all financial.
Right. And it's really up to the team, and they can have
Yeah.
the guy on the roster and just not play him and have him
Like
sit in
Shane
the
Wright.
press box.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly the Shane Wright situation. And there is no rule specifically that says they
No.
must be sent back. It's up to
No.
the NHL team for those,
Right.
18, 19-year-olds, what they want to do. And of course, like on the other side of things, there's the rule that for the CHL, they have to be sent back, to those teams. They can't be sent to the minors
Correct.
if the teams choose
Well,
to send them
there's a
back at
caveat.
all.
This year, one player was sent because they sent a
Yeah.
letter and they gave special dispensation. So then other teams tried to send the same letter and it didn't work. So, but yeah, one player did get assigned to the AHL with special circumstances.
Yeah, it's really up to the NHL teams. If they don't
Right.
get sent back before the season starts, they can do whatever they want at that point.
Yep.
Seth wants to know, what's the biggest surprise this season so far in the NHL?
The biggest surprise, I'd say Vegas. Most of the Stanley Cup teams have some sort of hangover. They have very few injuries. They have one injury. They've got both their goalies, which usually isn't the case. But they got Logan Thompson back, who I still think is better than Aiden Hill, but Aiden Hill won the Stanley Cup. So undefeated. Maybe they won't stay undefeated, as we said. This is being taped. But just to even start off 6-0, incredible.
Yeah, I think so. And I would maybe have them be a tie with Detroit. I think I expected Detroit to be better this season, absolutely no question. But to get off to this kind of start, especially scoring at the rate that they are, I think that part of it is the big surprise to me.
Yeah, I don't think
I
it's going
don't
to continue, though. Like, DeBrinket's
I don't
scoring at a
know.
crazy rate.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, well, I said even when we did our preview that Fabry would get hurt. He's already hurt. I think some things will happen with them. But right now, they're proving me wrong. So,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I don't know how sustainable this is, but at
right.
least for now, it's still a surprise to me
Yes,
how
that part's
well
true. Yes.
they're doing. So, yeah, I think, that's really the biggest ones. We talked about it, but I don't think Washington is a surprise necessarily.
I mean, it might be a
So,
surprise that there's so few goals and Ovechkin doesn't
yeah.
have a goal at this point.
Yeah, that could be. But, yeah, hopefully, we start to see things level out a little bit in the
Mhm.
NHL, and it should over the next couple of weeks. But hopefully the Flyers can, win more than they're losing, because it's always more fun when they do, and they'll have another chance to do that versus the Minnesota Wild on Thursday night. We will preview that on our next show. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So if you've got questions you want us to answer, like we did today, you can send them to us as direct messages on the app formerly known as Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel and I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Have a great day, everyone.